How's it going? I know. Crazy hectic, right? Well, sit back and relax and welcome to the Mom and Pop Spot. Help me welcome my dad and the host of the show, St. Patrick.
I am back, everybody. I know I've been MIA for a minute, so I apologize, but welcome to all my moms, pops, guardians, and guests. This is episode number 25, so the same number as a quarter. But welcome to the Mom and Pop Spot podcast. I am your host, Mr. St. Patrick. My co-host today is actually celebrating her youngest child's birthday. Not that one. So when she watches it, we're not laughing at him. Trying to do this one. Happy birthday to your daughter, Bernice. Yeah. But for today's show, we got a dope father and a real good person. I'm actually really excited because I think we were trying to approach this a while back. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to have you on. Please show love and help me welcome Noah to the show. How you doing?
Doing good. I'm doing good.
Nice. So how are you doing from 1 to 10 mentally, emotionally, just all around?
Man, I'd say like as of right now, definitely had some. I'd say it's like this last week's been pretty trying on my character. So I'd say I'm at like a 7. I'm building it up to an 8, 9. Yeah.
7's always good. I probably say this like 1,000 times, but I'm usually at a 7. Allergy today.
Oh yeah.
And I get those seasonal allergies. So some years I'll go and I won't have nothing, and then today I'm just like, actually this past couple of weeks I'm just like, man, it just driving me crazy.
Yeah.
And anything challenging with you with parenting or anything?
I'd say like like you say like past week or
like this past week.
No, I wouldn't say challenging.
Yeah.
Maybe like little irritating things, but
yeah. So tell me your situation. You have kids? How many kids?
Yeah, so I am a stepfather, as some would claim it to be, of a 18-year-old.
Okay.
Very, very, very intelligent, funny, young kid.
It's crazy because you say 18 and you look 18 yourself.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You're very young,
It gets a little awkward, and I'm trying my best not to be irritated in public.
Yeah.
Some folks they'll see me, my fiance, and my stepson.
Yeah.
And like, oh, how old are your kids? And she's like, I have one.
Yeah.
His name's Dimitri, and she's like, look, they're kind of trying to figure it out. I'm like, yo, I don't look that young, but chill.
Yeah.
So it's, it has its moments. I think as I get older, because I'm 31, 32 in August, I'm beginning to appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Because people have to do a double take, and you kind of get a bit of grace if you mess up. And then when they realize how old you are, it's kind of like, oh, okay, like, nah, you're too old for that.
So let me ask you, because like with my kid, like he's already at my height. You know what I mean? Like, what does that look like in your house?
He's 6. I want to say 6'2". So he's taller than me, 200 pounds. Yeah.
That is crazy. So I get it. I get the fact that, you know what I mean? Like, and I do understand, and I do have to agree with you when people are like, man, you look young. And now like I'm starting to get like the gray hairs and everything else. And I'm like, it's that transition that I'm trying to adapt to. You know what I mean? Like that's the crazy part of it. And what has been your secret to parenting?
Man, I would say that my secret to parenting, I think that it's a pretty unique thing being a stepdad, but also being a stepdad. Like I came into his life when he was 14.
Yeah.
So it's initially going in where my fiance has 14 years of experience and I have 0.
Yeah.
I hung out with my niece and nephew a couple times, but like that's the extent of it.
Yeah.
So having to be in full time, I think the key to it for me has been curiosity.
Okay.
Let me figure out how you think. Let me figure out what motivates you.
Right.
What are the things that irritate you? What are some of the things that we have in common? And then as you grow, continuing to remain curious, because at some point we're going to get to a point where we're comfortable enough, excuse me, to talk to each other about these different things we're uncomfortable about, uncertain about, but still having curiosity at the forefront. It removes any type of beliefs, any
Right.
type of judgment you may have going into it, because it's just kind of like, where is this going to lead me?
Mhm.
Where is this question going to go? Where's this connection going to go? And for me, at least, it's definitely been key in figuring out how to, do this parenting
Right.
thing.
You're actually admired by a bunch of people just from your parenting skills. And I didn't realize that you
Wow.
actually, the outside light, because I mean, we work together and everything else. And a lot of times we don't share a lot of our personal stuff.
Yeah.
And a few people are like, man, this dude's like a dope father and everything else. And I was like, oh, like, I started hearing like little chit chat or whatever the case is. And I'm like, man, I need
Wow.
him on my show. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just to pick his brain a little bit, because the fact that like you can shine on, you know what I mean, to it.
Yeah.
So you're very admired, not just by myself, but a few other people. I do have to mention that.
I appreciate that. I didn't know.
Yeah. Um, because the fact that like you're going into this whole new realm of step parenting.
Mhm.
How does that play out when you're trying to, let's say, discipline, or you're trying
Yeah.
to show love on the other aspect of it?
I think in I think that's kind of like something that is going to be consistent across all relationships, whether it's a
Uh-huh.
biological or
Right.
step parent situation.
Uh-huh.
Discipline, I think for me and my fiance, what we had to do is get to a point of, what is discipline? What does it really mean as far as how it plays out?
Yeah.
In a lot of people's mind, you hear discipline, you think of whipping or go stay in the corner, stare at that for 30 minutes. It's
Right.
not that. It may have some type of activity.
Uh-huh.
For me, like, I have a cat. Nobody likes to clean out the litter box,
Yeah.
but as much as you don't like to do it, I don't like to see you have bad grades. So how are we
Right.
going to have this translate and connect? So the whole reason for the discipline, let's say that you take something that isn't yours. As far as what the foundation here is, if
Mm-hmm.
we can agree that discipline is going to be, a 3-tier system, or it's going
Yeah.
to be this, we'll sit down and talk about it. Both parents have to be on the same page. And I would say for me, that's definitely been my biggest area of opportunity,
Okay.
because being a step parent, I learned early on that I have 100% accountability
Uh-huh.
and 0% authority.
Okay.
The main parent early on, I'll say,
Yeah.
that essentially was saying, like, you need to be you're accountable for this,
Mm-hmm.
showing up in this way, being there for him this way, paying bills, this and that.
Yeah.
And it's like, initially going in, you agree to it, but as far as the reality of it, you start to realize, like, if I do want something for myself, even if it's outlandish, like, just don't
Right.
touch this. This is mine. Leave it alone. You can call me selfish, whatever you want to be. Um, you still have 0% authority in that sense,
Right.
because if the mom, or let's say on the reverse, the dad isn't ready to invite or even trust that that person can be the other side that they had to step up for,
Yeah.
because it wasn't there, a absent parent, you're just doing it by yourself as a single parent.
Mm-hmm.
If that single parent isn't ready to welcome that person in,
Yeah.
like, they're still too sensitive or worried things could go left, it's going to be very difficult for both people in that relationship to be happy, and then for the parental relationship to even be established.
Right.
The kid's going to pick up on that distance, and even that understanding that, okay, you're here, you're doing your thing.
Uh-huh.
However, even if I do make you upset, mom's going to have the final word.
Yeah.
And once you break through that, you have a whole new understanding for, I would say, even both of us. Then it's easier for us to communicate and say, you may have perceived it that way, but this is
Right.
actually what's happening.
Huh. Man, I'm learning a lot. And it's funny because I had all these questions. I was gonna like go through whatever the case is, and now I wanted to like I wanted to like just
Yeah.
pick into like your thought process in a sense.
Mhm.
In regards to the whole step parenting thing, is the dad in the picture?
No.
No.
No, for what I remember,
Yeah.
the last time that he had contact with him,
Mm-hmm.
as far as seeing him, I think, like, being with him was when he was 13, 14. So a
Right.
little bit before they had moved here to Phoenix. And yeah, they hung out for a little bit. They were supposed to hang out later, and he had decided to go back home early. But I don't think that they've had much of a connection since moving here.
Yeah. So because of that relationship, it's pretty much stale.
Mhm.
How does that carry on with you and him, you and the child?
I think when we did talk about it, because I remember talking about it around his birthday,
Right.
before he went to college, and for me, I was more curious about how are you dealing with that situation.
Right.
Like, you're aware now. You're 17 going on 18. You know
Uh-huh.
what it is to recognize if somebody were there from, this age, or when this thing happened or this came up,
Yeah.
how things could be different. But I also had to take a step back because for me, I think the difference between me and my fiance is for her, she's 4 years older than me.
Yeah.
And so looking back going to 17 for her,
Uh-huh.
that's around the time she had gotten pregnant.
Yeah.
So she can reflect on that as much different.
Right.
For me, I'm like, I know what it's like to be a 16, 17-year-old young man.
Yeah.
At that time for me, I'm in don't know if you heard of it, it's called Venus, Texas. Very,
Uh-uh.
very small town. The time we moved there, population was about 1,600,
Okay.
2% black people.
Yeah.
So to know that that spotlight's on you at all times, you have to represent.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can't really necessarily be myself because I don't know who I am at 16, 17. I feel lost.
Yeah.
My dad's working a lot, so having to go through those changes, those transitions, who am I as a man? I
Yeah.
know what that's like.
I have to connect with you on that one because of the fact that I went to an all-white school.
Right.
We had a few blacks, we had a few Mexicans that were, and for the longest time, I got bullied because of the fact that I went from being a wannabe white kid to
Right.
being a wannabe Mexican, and I'm like, I was just trying to figure myself out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I wasn't trying to be one or the other. I was just trying to be me
Mhm.
at that school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I totally understand where you're coming from and everything else.
Yeah. And I think as a young person, and maybe now because with having social media more easily accessible for
Mhm.
us, we had the flip razor phone. So if
Yeah.
you could have internet, it costs. You
Yeah.
didn't really have social media like that, but the exposure and to be able to see all these different cultures by going on YouTube. And it's like, what are these kids bullying these kids on YouTube for? What are these kids doing this at this school?
Yeah.
And, now we have these different conversations about school shootings
Yeah.
and what's your gender, how early should we discuss those things, and it's, I think, now a lot more pressure on the kids, which for an adult, I think at our age at 30 we
Right.
have this established understanding. I know for the most part what's happening. I
Yeah.
know that there's still a lot more to learn. I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
But for what I do know, there's some things that don't work and it's clearly obvious.
Yeah.
And there's some things you can be optimistic about, but it's not going to work that way. We
Yeah.
got to be realistic. So
Yeah.
what I say all that to say, for me, what I wanted to translate as far as lessons and the things that were important for me,
Yeah.
I learned early on for Dimitri, he didn't necessarily need those same things.
Okay.
He needed different things.
Yeah.
But in order for me to figure out what that was, I had to be curious and I had to be patient. Allow those things to come out naturally in different situations and different conversations that we had.
So hearing you say that, are you coming in as a stepfather? Are you coming in as a friend? Or are you coming in as trying to be just a role model? You know what I mean? Like what's your perception on, okay, like I'm going into the situation,
Mhm.
here's what I need to be able to help him, and just help the whole situation to that way everybody understands and it's more comforting versus
I think for me, my background, my dad is more militant
uh-huh.
than anything, more
Yeah.
get it done, black and white.
Yeah.
And then my mom was like a nice balance of a black and white, but also like a huge gray area of you can do whatever and be happy.
Right.
And so I think that's a challenge,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
So I, I think now for me, what has been the most comfortable way of going into it is just let me hear him out.
Yeah.
Let me ask those questions, but more positive reinforcement. So if you are thinking about, let's say that you're thinking about changing your career in college, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what is the thing that made you change that?
Mhm.
What is something that when you go back to the first time you went to college, that if you could change a degree, what would it be?
Right.
If you're thinking about a job, what job would you want to have if you're not doing football?
Yeah.
And genuinely listening, but kind of digging in a bit more, not in an
Right.
investigative way, but more in a sense of, I'm curious to know what motivates you,
Mhm.
what pulled you in that direction. Like we had to talk about stocks, and for me, it was it was a good moment. I was happy.
Yeah.
Just to share some basic info about stocks. What's a smart way to invest, how to look into a stock. Um, but it's moments like that for me that it's that spark that I can see. I'm
Yeah.
not looking for the whole fire yet, but if I can see that spark, then we can at least do like firemen and control the fire.
Okay. So now, because the fact that he's older, are you planning on having kids of your own?
We've talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I think right now we just haven't gotten to a space where both of us are ready. Like
Yeah.
I won't say that we're going to be 100% ready, but both of us are ready and in that space of saying like, let's
So
actively do it.
let me say this, because the fact that I know exactly where you're at, because prior to my 17 kids, prior to all my kids, I was never ready. I was never ready. My wife is like, just we're never gonna be ready.
Yeah.
You got to jump in the deep end. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And I did. I trusted being the fact that okay, like here's the foundation that we're gonna build. I'm gonna jump in the deep end. Whatever comes to it,
mm.
I know, with faith, with energy, with everything else that we're gonna put into this, it's gonna be the best situation.
Right.
So I say that, not for or against whatever the case is, but like how you said, you're never gonna be ready,
Mhm.
but just we were saying it on Elijah's show, to trust the process, but at the same time to have faith within it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because you're never gonna be ready, financially, mentally, everything else. And it's always a challenge, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
The only
Yeah.
scary part about it is because of the fact that in time, we get older and then it starts, accumulating other issues, down the road, the older that you get to
Yeah.
having kids and everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you
Yeah.
expressing your love to him?
Um, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. That's
Because like I say it because like with my dad when I was younger, even with my family, they're all military and everything else. They don't express really, their emotions.
yeah.
And with my grandma's side, my dad's mom, like she that's all she did was express her love.
Yeah.
So I vowed, and it was one of my promise to my kids. I wasn't gonna be that person that's not gonna tell them I love them. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I tell them I love them every chance I get, and I tell them when I'm proud of them too, because the fact that I don't want them, God forbid, something happens, on the way home, and then I miss that opportunity. I don't want
Yeah.
to miss that opportunity.
Yeah.
So that means, where are you at expressing your love for him?
I think for me where I'm at is I mean, I think as of recently,
Mhm.
I think this year for sure has been one of our most challenging but also most trusting
Okay.
um places that we've been.
Yeah.
And so I say that to say that we've had some things we disagreed about,
Yeah.
and because we've had the chance to say like this is how I feel about that situation
Right.
and move past it, we both got to see, how we both would communicate and how we both look like when we're stressed. For me, that's a nice flag. So now I know these are some things we steer clear from.
Uh-huh.
Or if we starting to get in that space, this is how we need to communicate so we can move away from it.
Okay.
And so I think that having that sense of knowing, like, okay, so this may not be expressing verbally, but occasionally I'll go to the store, I'll get some of his favorite chips, I'll
Uh-huh.
get some of his favorite snacks, put it to the side, let him know that he got it. Um, if there's something that's coming up, let's say that like he was going off to football.
Right.
For me, it was a big deal, excuse me, to at least him going to college.
Yeah.
When he had moved out here, it was a real big deal for me to be able to drop him off for his first day at high school.
Yeah.
So I'm like, got to see you off, and then to be able to see him graduate and to be able to see to wish him well at college.
Yeah.
Like all of that I didn't get to experience with my parents. It was kind of like I had to leave home to do it. So I
Yeah.
missed out. And for me it was a big deal. And so like that was my way of showing I'm here.
Yeah.
This journey is just starting,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I look for those kinds of moments to
Yeah.
say my parents may not have been there and you may not recognize it now, but I hope you understand that this really is a big deal and I'm here for you.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. So before we continue, we're gonna take a quick potty break. But before we do, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe to this channel, and share this video for support. Dude, this is a dope episode right here. Yeah, I really like it. But we'll be right back. We are back. So going back into the parenting portion of it, would you consider yourself? Actually, let me rephrase that. Would he consider you to be a cool dad, or if you were a fly on the wall and someone asked him, how does to give him, describe you, how would you describe you?
Um, Probably say I'm cool at times, but I
Yeah,
could be an asshole.
yeah. I mean,
I would,
granted, that's
but
every parent,
yeah, genuinely, I would start the same with my dad too. But
Yeah,
um, definitely that. Um, but outside of that, very caring, takes care of the house, takes care of um my mom and my dogs.
yeah.
Um,
And then let me ask you another question.
yeah.
When you guys have a disagreement, how are you and mom handling the situation?
Well, early on for her, what I had told her was there's something I grew up with, and I like vowed I would never do in front of my kids, and that's
Yeah,
just argue in front of them.
yeah,
So there've been some times when we slipped up and it's happened, but the impact it had for me being able to see a disagreement escalate
yeah,
instead of seeing effective communication,
yeah.
I, it was something I had to essentially search out and find.
I
And
respect you
so,
for saying that, because of the fact that, like, that's one thing I try to do, but sometimes
yeah,
it's you're in a long day, and then sometimes like the kids are yelling, like it gets very overwhelming, and then sometimes it ends up escalating to where it's like, everybody's yelling in the house,
exactly.
and that creates so much child trauma.
Yeah,
And I love the fact that you say that, because you're eliminating the trauma within that house, you know?
yeah. And like I said, I can't stress that there have been times we've both have gotten upset and we screamed,
Yeah.
but from then, even then, like I tell her, I don't want to. If it gets to a point where we're yelling, I don't want to continue this point. Like, let's just cut it off here and let's break.
So let's say there's a situation with the kid where he's like, um, I don't know, he wants to do something, he wants to go somewhere. There's a situation where you're saying one thing and she's saying another.
Hmm.
What does that situation look like? Because essentially in
Yeah.
my house, I always tell my kids, like, look, you're gonna have to ask your mom. Your
Right.
mom, literally, that's the backbone of this family. Her rule is golden rule. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If she says one thing and I don't necessarily, agree with it, we'll talk amongst ourselves to figure out, what the situation is. But
Right.
ultimately it's gonna be her decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Excuse me. That's just exactly what we do.
Yeah.
So if there is something that goes off, let's say that, excuse me, her name's Ashley, but
Yeah.
she decides to, let his friend stay over or something. And even at that point, she'll still communicate and say, "Hey, his friend's staying over. Just want to give you the heads up."
Yeah.
But if I disagree with that, or for whatever reason we disagree on it, I'm like, "Hey,
Yeah.
let's talk about this later."
Yeah.
And so we'll talk about it. But again, there's even times because our house is built the way that it is, we're just not going to talk about it in the house. If we
Yeah.
do, keep it low.
Yeah.
So um, I think that's something that I think you brought up a good example where you'll have a long day at work. You'll had a lot of these things that were thrown up against you.
Yeah.
You're feeling overwhelmed, but you still have this next challenging thing, and that's being able to find something as easy as the right words to
Yeah.
let this person know, one, I'm tired and I'm irritated. Two, I get that you're tired and irritated, but three, I still have needs and wants, and we have to figure this out.
Yeah.
And so like I said, it's an ongoing thing, but that's natural, I feel, and it goes across for all relationships because
Yeah.
everybody's growing at their own pace.
Yeah. And I do have to point out, not that one.
Yeah.
Sorry, not that one. Yeah. Keep hitting that one. I do want to congratulate you and Ashley, because you guys are getting married here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So shout out to you, Ashley. You got a good man right here in front of you. And I do also have to say, in regards to being the fact that, like, they speaking of on my wife, like, women have the right words to say that'll get under your skin. When I get
Mhm.
home, and sometimes, like, I try not to show it. I try to, a lot of times I'll try to keep it as much bottled in, so just that way I'm not taking it home to her because she's dealing with a lot with herself too.
Yeah.
And then we have the family and everything else. When
Mhm.
I get home, sometimes I just need 5 or 10 minutes. I'm on YouTube just to decompress
Yeah.
from everything because it's just all these little nicks and knacks and everything else that's going around, and just these little stones that are just getting thrown.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just give me 10 minutes. And sometimes she'll be like, you get home and you're already on the. And a lot of times I won't even say anything.
Yeah.
And silence is
so good.
I know, but at the
Hold
same
up.
time, it's also fire to her because she just.
Yeah. Why
So
you
I'll
need
just be like,
silence? Why you
or
need
if I
silence?
agree with her, because a lot of times I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. Not
Mhm.
because I'm trying to be sarcastic or I'm trying to be like mean,
But you're right.
but yeah, like I agree
I
with her.
am
You know
here.
what I mean? Like, I am sitting down here.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't, do the dishes or whatever the case is. Like, I understand. Give me a few minutes and I'll take care of it, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right on the words and everything else. But I
Yeah.
got a random thought for you.
Mhm.
Because you were mentioning, your parents and everything else, and I do that from time to time. I have a lot of bitter moments, and at times I'm not depressed, but I find myself in depressed moments.
Right.
Thinking about my childhood, my child trauma to my kids, to making sure that I'm not giving them that same child trauma. But random thought, and a parent kid question kind of thing too. But would you go back to getting a whooping, to feel like a kid again? I mean, well, actually, let me rephrase it because I don't know what
Like
discipline look like.
when I go back to being a kid,
Kind of like, so let me rephrase that because the fact that like,
because I will get out of a lot of whoopings knowing what I know now.
I mean, well, would
I'd
you?
be
How
dangerous.
was your discipline when you were a kid? Because I used to get whippings all the time.
So I have 2 older sisters.
Yeah,
Firstborn son between my mom and dad,
yeah,
2 younger brothers, and a younger sister.
yeah,
So I had the privilege of seeing both of my older sisters get in trouble
yeah,
and also them getting praised for different things.
yeah,
So I figured it out early. Like if I do this, shine. I
yeah,
do this, get your butt whooped.
yeah,
So to me, there would be things that I knew I would be pushing the envelope. And there
uh-huh,
were things that it was kind of like I would really sit and think like I know mom or dad is gonna come back on me for this. So I'm
right,
not gonna do it. Now with that being said, there right then and there, like that type of thinking, that's critical thinking.
yeah,
So I noticed that there were some of the kids around me that did that, and there were some of the kids that understood I'm gonna get in trouble regardless, so I'm just gonna go all the way in.
yeah,
And then their parents take care of it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that because my
yeah,
mom, she might do the same thing to me.
yeah.
So
But with that train of thought though, like, because the fact that like sometimes we just want to just have a few moments to be a kid again, you know what I mean? To
yeah,
have that essence that we did when we were growing up. Even the fact that sometimes we were growing up, in the toughest times, in dark
yeah,
times.
mhm,
But would you go back, and go through a few whippings just to have a few moments as a kid again?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I
Um,
definitely risk it for the biscuit.
yeah. Yeah. And another thing I wanted to talk about is when you're having to talk about serious situations with your kid,
Mhm.
who's necessarily talking? Is that you, or is that your wife, your fiance?
It was my fiance for a while, and I think that after Dimitri went to college and came back, he, for what I've observed, has a different understanding of our relationship.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be some things that I know that he understands that I care about. And there's
Right.
some things that my fiance cares about. So if she brings it up, it's kind of like if if a CEO of a company has to answer for something, but he has the vice president answer, you're kind of like, boo,
Yeah.
throwing tomatoes. I want to talk to the CEO.
Yeah.
CEO can come talk to me.
Yeah.
So I get it. And so I'd say as of recently, there has been a time when I had to, we're coming out of a period where, we're talking about discipline and I'm essentially giving him his internet back. But beforehand, I just asked him like back to
Hmm.
where we're at right now. And, these past few months,
Right.
this is how I feel about what happened. This is how I feel about where we're at right now.
Right.
How do you feel about where we're at and what do you think happened?
Yeah.
And so once we had an understanding as far as this is what we disagreed about, but as far as what I'm asking,
Hmm.
this right here, like leave it alone. We saw eye to eye on that, and then that was pretty much it. We moved by it. So
Yeah.
I like I said early on, it definitely was Ashley that was doing it, but I think now I'm learning that if it is something for me, especially as much as I do want to have her there and be involved with it, I have to be the one to bring it up.
Yeah.
And I think adding to that, it took a little bit of time for me to be in a space where I felt comfortable bringing these things up, because in the back of my mind, I kind of felt like she didn't trust me in that space to do it.
Okay. I understand. Yeah. And then now we're gonna go into a few other topics where I would love to hear your opinion on this. These are actually real situations that I've come across on the actual news itself.
Okay.
But a dying nurse in Tennessee claims she swapped more than 5,000 babies. What are you doing to make sure that this doesn't happen to you in the hospital? Or, like if you guys are at the hospital and you're like, shoot, like, let's say that nurse is in that hospital that you're at. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing as a precautionary?
Gosh, I mean, I feel like there's only so much you could do after
Yeah.
the baby's born in the hospital.
Right.
The only other extreme outside of that is, you get you what do they call those, a dolly? No, not a dolly. They're they're like the ladies that help you have babies.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Doula,
Yeah.
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 A doula, that's
Yeah.
right. So get you a doula and you have a birth at home.
Yeah.
Want to make sure that you know a notary so that they can have two people witness it, because that's going to be an issue when you try to get the birth certificate.
Yeah.
But I feel like, do you have Google? Can we Google it real quick?
Yeah.
Like, what's the average in America that babies are swapped? Because if she did 5,000, I want to know how much she contributed to the overall number.
It's gonna be crazy if it's like not. 100%. I'm just kidding.
Ah!
About 28,000 babies get switched in hospitals every year.
28,000.
28,000
She's got
babies.
5,000 under her belt.
Yeah.
But this is, I'm sure for her, it's over her career as a nurse, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there wasn't 5 in a year, but even still, 28 in a year?
Yeah, that's 5,000, I think, in our whole entire career.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I'll read this next part too, where it says temporarily or permanently out of 4 million births, says Nicholas Webb, Vice President of Technology for Talon Medical Limited, a San Antonio, Texas-based vendor of a new high-tech ID bracelet for newborns. Actually, there's a thing that I want to create. I need rich people, because I want to put out a couple of things to. I think we've talked about some of the things that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, would help eliminate this situation.
So sorry, I'm. You made me curious.
Yeah.
And I was looking at those numbers. That seems kind of high now that I'm looking at the percentage of it.
Yeah.
It's saying that she technically, if it's 28,000 a year, if she did 5,000, that's about 20%.
Well, I think for her it was 5,000 in her home.
Oh, her career.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
whole
okay,
career.
okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
If it was
Okay.
5 in a year,
I was like, in
she
a
on a
year,
roll.
I'm like,
God damn.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a second, that's like almost 25% of the total. Like, goddamn, she didn't get caught.
Yeah. Well, that's why
Never
she's
mind.
sick. That's why she's sick now.
It's a scam. It's
Yeah.
a scam.
Here's another one. A 31-year-old Colorado woman pregnant by a 13-year-old middle schooler. She won't be receiving jail time. She's taken the plea deal and won't be receiving the harsher punishment. What do you think should happen in this situation?
What state is she in?
Colorado.
Oh. I was expecting some in the South.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah.
As a father, she needs to be in jail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a 13-year-old kid,
oh, he getting props.
You know what I mean?
All 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade.
That's a prime age. Like by that time, I was. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think it goes into what's the double standard, and then it can also branch off into what's moral, what isn't.
Yeah.
All in all, I think that Colorado.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like one of the states that's the wild card.
Yeah.
I've seen some weird rules in different states, like Arizona. I was randomly looking it up. You can't have a donkey in a bathtub. It's illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. I don't know who would snitch on you and do that, but
I don't know who would be in the bathtub with the donkey.
Well, just donkey by itself.
Yeah.
Bathtub. Can't do it. Yeah. So it's crazy. But Colorado, I don't know. I think again, it goes into like the double standard.
Yeah.
Growing up as a kid, especially being a boy, that's kind of essentially what's on your mind from 13 to 20, because you just figured out you a boy.
Yeah.
But
And she's pregnant though too.
Yeah.
So that's life changing right there too.
Yeah.
And you do have to account being the fact that it just wasn't a sexual situation, it was rape.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. I mean,
he went against it. He was like, no.
He apparently, we don't know if he was or not.
Allegedly.
There you go. That's the word I was looking for.
Allegedly
he was
okay.
Not,
Well, both sides. If it was rape, then like that's she should get some jail time for that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Now, on
like
the other side,
because that's why I was playing devil's advocate. Me as a 13-year-old kid, like I'd be like, when are you coming over? You know what I mean?
Look, man, I'm telling you, I'm gonna just be honest. At 13,
even more so,
like, cheeks.
Yeah, but even more so because the fact that I think he's probably saying that because of the fact that now there's a baby involved.
Yeah, you got.
Because I'd be like, like I don't want to do that. Like I'm not trying to be a father at 13.
Now you national news. You got to answer for stuff at 13. That's too much pressure.
Yeah.
My man's got 300 followers on Facebook. He is not ready for this.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah,
he's not ready.
And what about this one? A woman shamed a father for using the woman's unisex restroom for his daughter.
How is it women's unisex if it's unisex?
I don't know.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Like if it's unisex, it means both.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
That's where I'm going with it.
Here's the thing too. Even if it was a woman's restroom, because
you gotta look like a woman at least.
I'm not even sure.
Transgender, but you gotta look.
Right, you gotta look the part.
Yeah.
It don't matter what you got going on down there, but
I think
you gotta look like a woman.
So I think what they probably meant was, a lot of times, like even at our we have like those separate restrooms, and a lot of times they'll have like the man unisex and the woman unisex. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
Anyways, he was shamed for using that restroom to take his daughter in there. Father explained the men's restroom was disgusting, smelled like pee, and nothing was set up for the person with the kid. And I want to point out, I've gone to plenty of men's restrooms, and for my baby and everything else, half the time they don't even have anything set up for us. You know what I mean? Like,
that's real though.
Yeah, like there's no
the little baby changing.
Or anything. Like even a lot of times when it's there, a lot of times it's all broken, it's all tagged on, it's all people are shitting on there themselves, and it's like, dude, like what the heck?
That might be why they don't have them.
Yeah, so like I don't blame this father not one bit. I think it's messed up. What are your thoughts?
I think that speaks to the janitorial services. I hope that business figures out who was supposed to clean it that day.
Yeah.
But two, I think you're right. I've gone in plenty of bathrooms, especially in Walmart, and the whole diaper changing spot is broken.
Yeah.
If you're on daddy duty, where are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And as far as the unisex women's, I don't get it. Like, it's still, if you can't.
So then let's change it up.
Like 51%, 49.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like I get it, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
I see where they're going.
Yeah, but let's also change it up a little bit. Because I'm not 100% on this situation itself, but let's say it was a woman's restroom.
Okay.
Would you have an issue with it?
I would say yeah. Only because if there is the option to go to your car, and you got the stuff there, yes, it's a hassle, and yes, it's extra steps, and but that to me is short of you putting up a sign saying, "Hey, there's a guy in here," or "Maintenance right now, come back," just so you could use that. But
because I think about that too. Like just right now, I'm like, okay, like if a father came in with his daughter, would I be upset if he went into the women's restroom? No, fine,
right.
But if my daughter was in the restroom and she was 8 years old and he went in there, my wife was in the restroom, whatever the case is, would I be upset? You know what? That changes things. Now all of a sudden I'm upset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
In the defense of all males, logically, we got to think about this. Women's restrooms has nothing but stalls.
True.
Yeah.
More privacy.
So you walk in there, it's not like you walking into a vag hanging out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
I mean, every once in a while you might have a chick adjusting up top or something, but realistically, you're probably not going to walk into boobs in your face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like I might get some slack for this, but I'm a logical person and realistic person, and sometimes our society is not.
Exactly.
So I feel like if you were to walk in and kind of announce yourself, to bust in there and just do it is a little different.
Yeah.
Right.
But if I like kind of crack the door, I'm like, hey, I got my daughter with me. I need to change her real quick. There's no changing in the other room. I'll be real quick. Just let me be real quick. And just kind of like force my way into it though. Like, don't give them an option to answer me.
But see, I think
I'm just like, I'm coming in to do this.
I
real
think
quick.
that I think a lot of times the women will be okay with it. Like a lot of times they
that's
might
what I'm
even go in
saying.
the restroom and
If you announce it like that, I think they would
yeah.
be more okay with it.
I agree with
Yeah.
that. I agree with that.
I think me personally too. I think the woman that shamed that dad, I think she needs to have a good a good conversation,
right.
so she can understand. Maybe she doesn't have kids, so she doesn't know the aspect of it.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know the dynamic of it. You know what I mean? It's so many variables that could have played out, but I think a nice conversation with the lady that was shaming him, and I think a nice approach to the actual business of changing that men's restroom to be able to be suitable for that baby.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
And let me tell you about this one. 4 teens accused of breaking into a Glendale home, throwing a party, and trashing the neighborhood. What are you doing if this is your kid?
Ooh.
They trashed the neighborhood.
Yeah, you trashed the neighborhood.
And the guy just purchased the house. Like he hadn't even moved in yet. Yeah, like literally, like yeah.
I bet his insurance is gonna take care of it. That's one of the things they make you get when you buy it.
Yeah, well, he doesn't even want to move in now because he's like, man, he's like, I feel
rough
like
neighborhood. It's crazy. All these hoodlums. Yeah. I mean, so for my kid, I definitely you definitely getting grounded off rip.
Yeah.
What the time looks like or what you're gonna do in between that, I think, definitely discussing that with my fiance, figure out what's the right move.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to ground them to the point where they want to kill themselves.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I want to be reasonable and find the best way to express that how the discipline's connected with how serious it is.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I'm just a firm believer that if you can't get the foundations down at home, nobody outside in the outside world is going to be as polite as I am, even if the discipline's super strict.
So a few things too to add some tidbits to it. The neighborhood is afraid because the kids are still around there.
Okay.
None of the kids were actually nothing happened with the kids. They weren't punished or anything else.
Nothing?
Yeah, the police just kind of just turned the blind eye.
Yeah, you definitely get grounded.
Yeah, and when the original homeowner came home, like some of the kids were still sleeping like in the house.
Hey, they bold.
So, yeah,
they bold.
Yeah.
Dang, I'm sorry. I would have caught a case if I was the homeowner.
You feel me? Like this is Glendale.
Actually,
open
I wouldn't
carry.
even caught a case because you in my home still.
Yeah.
So I have all rights to whip your
the green
ass.
light. That's where whippings come in.
Yeah. If you see,
like, oh, this motherfucker's still in the house. Let me go get my crowbar.
Right.
Yeah. If you see the video, there's just a flood of kids just coming out of the house. The cops are just like, but I've been to plenty of parties where it's got broken up. Police come out of the cases. We weren't trashing their neighborhood and everything else.
You were trashing the neighborhood, and you're in somebody's house that I'm sure their parents own. This was straight B&E.
Yeah, their parents owned. They just didn't know about it. Yeah.
It would have been doing some community service or something.
Oh yeah, definitely all summer, 100+ degree heat.
Yeah.
You built for it.
Especially if they're trying to shove a bill our way. They trying to shove a bill towards us too.
Yeah.
Oh no, you definitely.
I think in that case,
community service.
I think in that case they had mentioned it was like $14,000 in damages,
Whoa.
which seems like a lot, but at the same time it doesn't.
Who's paying for it?
I don't know. See, that's the thing. I think it's eventually going to have to come down to the guy's insurance,
Yeah,
which is messed up. You know what I mean?
I don't think it would be the insurance because I'll avoid it. Like that's intentional destruction. If it's connected to you, I think it will fall on the parents unless they allow the kids to be prosecuted. It doesn't sound like they did.
They didn't. So I think he's gonna have to go out of he's gonna have to. What would that be? A civil case or?
Jeez, boy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I know.
So now what are you gonna do? Because he's gonna be forced to come after the parents.
Yeah.
So
like
does that change your discipline on the kid when now you know this guy might be suing you?
Exactly. Yeah, my discipline still stay the same. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. Next couple of years, you'll be like, man, you still not ungrounded yet? You'll be known as the kid that was grounded for all of high school.
Yeah,
that's gonna be your nickname, grounded. Not because you calm, but because you was grounded.
I know about plenty of those times.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was perfect.
Nobody's gonna know.
Okay. And you know what that sound means. It's now time for the know, the O, and the lab. It's where this and every show we give out a random hack, fun fact, or message and joke. Today's hack. As the weather starts to heat up, get an ice cube tray and fill it up with Kool-Aid. Add Kool-Aid to it. Throw in the water, even a Sprite. And as the ice melts, the drink will change colors and it adds like new taste to your drink. Yeah, so it's pretty dope.
That's a hood delicatessen right there.
Yes, especially with the quesadilla.
Yeah. The Sprite, that's a nice touch on there.
Yeah.
What they call the new Sprite in the sparkly or something? The Sierra Mist?
Oh yeah.
The sparkly?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
I don't know if I can get down with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still Sierra Mist to me.
Yeah, I guess so. It still has like that tang taste to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the message. I just want to say thank you for all the amazing parents out there guiding your kids and spending some good quality moments with them. I appreciate everything you're all doing out there for, for them, for your family, et cetera, and for being a great role model for your children. Even you yourself. I mean, I've learned a lot from you. So it's really dope. And I appreciate you. You know what I mean?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And the joke. My baby, he actually was eating a couple of scramble pieces.
Scramble pieces?
Yeah. I've been trying to get him to use the restroom, you know what I mean, to go poop and stuff like that, but no word yet.
But
there we go.
I like it. I like it.
And as we wrap up this show, I want to give a huge shout out to my guest. I had to read, kind of messed up right here, but I want to give a huge shout out to today's guest. As soon as I set up the sound, to Noah. You want to plug? Mention anything? Your music?
Plug. Yeah, I can throw my music out.
Yeah,
there.
throw
I
everything.
Do music. Yeah. Everybody doesn't know.
I didn't.
Yeah, full disclosure, I didn't tell Patrick till today.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find me by searching YouTube, Instagram. Yeah, Instagram, Tidal, Apple Music, Spotify, so forth. I am Noah Wright, or just Noah Wright, WRIGHT. And yeah, there's definitely gonna be some more music coming out this year. I took a very, very long break. I needed it so I can get on my poop in a group, and now it's time to come out.
Been retired for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking about, my son wants to get into it.
Okay.
And I've been thinking about redoing my music, but towards his style. You know what I mean? Right. And then it could be like his whole entire venture, or just, creating new music for him. But as far as me, I think I'm done. There's a chance I might write a few more songs, but more specifically for them and not necessarily for, for anything else. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but shit, more power. You know what I mean? Just keep doing your thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What else do you want to plug?
I don't got nothing else. That's it. You know.
Well, whenever you do, just let me know. I'll plug it away. So
yeah, maybe a message. Yeah. I'd say if you are a parent, if you are going through it, just know that you're not alone. Yeah. Everyone's experiencing their own nuance when it comes to parenting, but there is no perfect.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
And understand now that even though we grew up, we had our own tough situations. The kids now, they're going through a lot more pressures that are beyond what we can comprehend, and it's all coming from their phone. As much as we want to try to control it, best way is just to understand it and help support them while they come to their own understanding and become their own person.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what I leave with.
Oh, thank you. And as always, Mr. Habari Live himself, Mr. Dip, and Elijah Wealth for Generations Lee, please like and follow Habari Live Podcast, Habari Entertainment, and One Love on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Stay safe out there. Stay hydrated. Make it a great day. We're out.